Aloha lava. Welcome to Pasifika Wire. In this episode, we talk to Saunoamaali'i Dr. Karanina Sumeo, Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner for the Human Rights Commission. Saunoamaali'i is an advocate for the promotion of economic development, social and employment interests of marginalized groups, particularly women, Pasifika people and youth. She talks about the inquiry into the pay gap for Pasifika people in the workforce, the challenges faced talking about discrimination, the hard truths the country needs to face to provide an equal, fair and diverse workforce for Aotearoa New Zealand.
I'm Saunoamaali'i Karanina Sumeo of Samoan descent from the village of Wailima and Apia. And my heritage is connected to villages in Fusisafata in Samoa and Latamanu and a few other places. But I was Samoan born and I came here with my grandparents and my sister when I was about 10. So I became the Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner about 2.5 years ago. And my role is essentially to advocate for and promote respect and understanding of human rights generally, but especially in the area of employment and pay equity. And I also have additional responsibilities for the promotion of women's rights as well as human rights in business. So that's a bit of a package about the role that I carry.
Saunoamaali'i, it is a privilege to have you join our Pasifika Wire podcast this morning and talking about your role in such an involved role, but also just, how do I put this, influential in this time and age, and especially with the global pandemic that we're currently going through. Can you share just some of the highlights and challenges you've seen working in this space?
Well, I think, when COVID hit, that took everyone, that took everyone off guard. And we know certainly that in New Zealand, our people and Pacific peoples, our struggles multiplied, if I can put it in that way, compared to others. And so when the COVID hit, of course, our people, got hit in significant numbers in terms of job losses, in terms of insecurity, of work, of hours, things like that. And of course, when you think about our children, their education was disrupted right through from primary school, from early childhood, right through to tertiary level study. It was really interesting because I taught my kids study at uni. And there's a general impression that, at tertiary level, young people are used to using technology and learning online, but actually they both struggled, because our people, I think people generally learn also from face-to-face contact. There's only so much that you can read off a screen or read off a book.
Right.
And that really disrupted their learning. So I could only imagine what it must be like, for children generally, especially us, but also with people then being stuck at home when they were locked down, especially in Auckland. We know that, that added a whole lot of responsibilities, especially on our women in our homes. And I do hope that our men also stepped up. I grew up in Samoa, and it's, our brothers, our cousins, our male relatives were the ones that went and collected food and did the cooking. So it's not unusual then for us to expect them to do the same here in New Zealand, but it seems to be a novelty. I just remind my relatives gently about that. So, do what you're supposed to do, So we were hit pretty hard by that. But so some of the struggles from our people, have some of them been very personal as well as in employment. Certainly in employment, I heard from our people, someone said, I got email that my hours are being cut. Or, I got email that, I had to take leave. There was no discussion. Like there were lots of that sort of in the moment reactions from employers and businesses.
Right.
And our people were at the receiving end of that. And of course, for a number of Pacific people, those hours at work are really precious. You cannot afford to lose 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 or even a day. And so the impact on that, on household incomes, and then of course on the well-being of our families was very significant. So I did what I could in terms of being on mainstream media, on TV and radio.
Right.
Just reminding employers that they have duties under the law, to consult on certain things. They can't just impose people to take leave or demand they take leave. There are laws that protect employees' rights. So just reminding people of those things, that COVID has hit us, but it's not removed obligations and duties under law to treat your staff people accordingly. But of course, there's a problem with our people understanding their rights.
Yeah.
The majority of Pacific people in the workforce do not belong to unions, so which is a problem. When COVID hit, those in unions had someone to call on to stick up for their rights. But the bulk of our people don't belong to collectives to help them understand the law. At least if you're part of a union, even if you don't understand the law, your union delegates are expected to understand the law and be able to stand up and help you. So that wasn't the case. So we're quite vulnerable in that area. And again, I engage with unions, I engage with businesses, I certainly engage with ministers and cabinet and MPs in trying to push them to do what they need to do to ensure that basic rights of all people, especially our people, are upheld during COVID. I think one of the, despite the difficulties, one of the things that really brought a lot of pride to me as a Pacific person was the way that our community rallied together to protect each other. The works that our churches, and our Pacific health providers, they just got together, help with the testing, tried to alleviate the anxieties. We're all over media, not only Pacific media, but also mainstream media, just sending those messages of support and aloha to our people. Go get tested. Things will be okay. Just reassuring, hey. Yeah. So I felt so proud as a Pacific person, I'm just really proud of our people coming together to save us and protect us. So that was a big highlight. I think it is fair to say that for certainly for some businesses, it's made them more alert to inequities. For others, it's become an opportunity to continue doing what they were doing. And so those are the ones that we need to reach. For example, migrant exploitation continues. It continued throughout, and Pacific people are vulnerable in that space, and that's one of the areas that I speak out on. It was great to see in terms of the RSE workers, stronger commitment, because we just realized how valuable that pool of workers was to the New Zealand economy. And so we acted accordingly. All of a sudden, the living wage was the basic wage for RSE workers. Isn't that fantastic? Why don't we make that the living wage the basic for every worker? Because that will definitely lift the incomes for our Pacific people who are not on the living wage, who are on the minimum wage. So, we've shown that if we want to, we can do these things, and we can afford to do these things. So it's almost like not a matter of affordability. We're talking about a decision about what we think is important and how we want to treat our people as a country. So that's something that I think we could do better. But it's not a given that all businesses are ready for change.
Sure.
Some are still struggling with their bottom lines, like obviously hospitality and retail. They're still struggling, right? If the hotels weren't full of people in MIQs or people there who are homeless, if they only relied on tourists coming in, they'll all be broke and closed down, right? So there's still struggling sectors in our economy. But certainly the expectation, the message is out that we need to do better. And sometimes, there was this perception of certain occupations being of less worth. When I say less worth, I mean in terms of pay. And we've learned a lesson. We've learned a very humbling lesson that without those roles, we would be helpless as a community. So without our caregivers, without the people growing and picking the fruit and the vegetables, without people at the supermarket, we would be helpless as a society. So I'm looking forward to the day when we can act to actually address that inequity and value those roles more.
That was Saunoamaali'i, Dr. Karanina Sumeo. You can listen to the full podcast with Saunoamaali'i on Spotify. Thanks for listening. Visit our website at www.pacificawire.com. We welcome you to like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Whaawitai, Maia Manuia.